Guys, in this video we're going to be painting the little owls on the branch. To start, you're going to make sure you have your canvas out, and we have paints. We're going to be using red, black, blue, and white. These are my tubs I've been using for probably about a month now. Still have paint left over in them, and they're still holding up good because I've been taking care of them. They're nice and clean. I don't have other colors mixed in. The best way I have found to get your paint onto your little tubs, onto your plate, is just take a little scoop with a butter knife, and then you can just scrape it off on the edge of your plate. And of course I don't have them ready, but paper towels. You can just clean the knife off, super easy and quick. And that way it's nice and clean. You're not mixing colors in your other tubs. And it's a lot less time cleaning the butter knife than it is cleaning out a brush. And you're wasting less paint too, because you're getting everything that you scoop, for the most part, right on your plate. So there's very little waste on the butter knife. And I don't have any white left over. I've used all that. So I'm gonna just squirt it out of my jug and we'll be good to go. Making sure I get the lids put back on nice and tight. Make sure they snap, but they don't get dried out on you. Get some white paint. And depending on the size of your canvas, I have just this little guy. It's an 8 by 10. You may need more paint if you have ordered maybe the larger size, 14, 11 by 14. So it just depends on the size of your canvas, how much paint you're actually going to be using. But it really doesn't take that much at all. As you can see, I don't have much on there. No sense in getting more than you need that you're just going to throw out. You can always get more out of your tubs. Alright, so to start, I am going to just take a black Sharpie marker and go over, trace my tree limbs. And I do recommend that you use Sharpie brands, only because I haven't really tested other brands. I know this one works. It doesn't bleed through and ruin your painting. I have used different colors of Sharpie. I guess only one other color. I tried red. That's all I had at the time where I was doing the painting. And it bled through and it was kind of a nightmare. So black Sharpie is where it's at. Now I'm just gonna go in and do all my background, basically the sky. So I have my brushes here. I've been using this water already, so it's a little dirty, but that's all right. It's not gonna affect my painting. Just gonna get my brushes cleaned out, dried off, ready to go. So these are the 3 sizes I probably will be using. This one mostly. I probably don't need this bigger one, but if you're using a bigger canvas, you may want a larger brush. All right, let's get going. So to start, I'm just gonna make a nice light blue color. And I'm just gonna get some white. I'm gonna need a fair pile of this because there's a lot of background area. I'm just gonna take a nice scoop of blue. Stir that in. Maybe a little bit more. Doesn't take that much blue. It's a very strong color. So it really turns the white quite blue with just a little bit. So as I'm working, I will be mixing in a lot of white on my canvas. So I'll start kind of in this general kind of center area, getting this the most blue. I'm gonna sweep it in, go around my little birdies. And I'm just gonna pick up white on my dirty brush and get that smeared around. It is important that you're adding the white while your blue paint is still wet. Otherwise, it's not really going to blend. It's just going to lay on top. I'm trying to keep my brush strokes all kind of at this angle. Now I'm just going to start adding more white because I got quite a bit of blue in that space. And there's a lot of blue on my brush still. It's just gonna, as I add the white, it's just gonna be a little bit lighter and lighter as I go down. And I am painting right over these limbs. So long as your paint isn't thick and globby, you'll be able to see them no problem. So then I'm just picking up white paint. My brush is already quite full of the blue from mixing. I'm actually gonna roll some off just so I don't have quite so much. More white. I am kind of just add this kind of curved kind of stroke. So the lightest part of my canvas is going to be down here for the most part. And this is just white on my brush that hasn't been cleaned, so there's blue left over. There's something crusty on my canvas. Just gonna paint right over it. There's this little spot in here we gotta get between our birds. Still with the white on my brush. I haven't picked up any more blue. I am going to add a little bit more blue just because this edge is starting to dry. Oops, got his head. And then back with the white. More white. Trying to keep the paint off my table. There we go. There's the background. A little bit more in there. All right, so next let's work on our little birds. Well, we should probably get the limbs done first. I'm gonna blow this dry. If you don't have a blow dryer handy, just give it a few minutes. Let it dry all the way, especially where you've painted over top of the limbs. We're going to be just using black paint. Get my towel on the way or it will blow off the table. I'll wipe them. All right. So the birds, I'm just gonna get started by painting the majority of their body red. I use a smaller brush just because my medium brush is kind of beat up. The edge, the bristles are frayed and floofy, and I don't have much control. So if you have a nice medium-sized brush, use that. Otherwise, just use something small. I'm gonna do the majority of the body, but I'm not gonna do like this area around the face. I'm just gonna go around that. If you are using a smaller brush, it's a lot easier to get globs because the paint wants to pool around the outside edge of your bristles. So make sure you're just getting that spread out nice and thin and even. Just get a little bit of paint on your brush at a time, spread it out, and then you can just go get more. And especially with these smaller canvases, the spaces are a lot smaller. If you've got a big canvas, much easier to paint. I like to rotate my canvas around while I work because I'm right-handed, and it's just easier for me to keep my arm rested in a certain spot. If you're left-handed, probably the opposite works better for you. Well, I was gonna paint the branches. Oh well, it's all good. It would have been easier to do the branches first, just because the overlap here, but no worries. All in all, it will come out the same. This will take more than one coat, so don't be stressing that it's looking a little pink and streaky. That's fine. Right now, we just need to focus on getting the paint spread out evenly so there's no globs. Second coat will fix all the streakies. gonna go and do a second coat. This first one looks dry. Just make sure your first coat is dry before you do your second coat. Alright, those are done for now. The red is done. I'm gonna go on, now I will paint the branches just using black paint. I'm gonna stick with the same size brush, again, because my medium brush is terrible. And just using black paint, you're just gonna come in and get your branch all filled in. And make sure you get that Sharpie marker covered all the way on the edge. You don't want that showing. Make sure you're getting all your little globs smoothed out. And if you wanted to add some more branches up there, feel free. I may, let's see what we can do. Let me put one off of here. Next, we're gonna paint the face. I'm gonna go ahead and put my Sharpie on the nose. I guess it's a beak. Might as well do the eyes while we're at it. This will just ensure that I can see the design through the paint, and I can just paint that whole space white and not worry about losing my pencil line. The pencil does show through white fairly well, but just as a precaution. So just using white paint, and then paint this little space. On the edge, on the bottom, I'm just gonna kind of make it a little fluffy. It's kind of on the side of my brush. Flick down so it looks like feathers. And that where it's overlapping onto the red, where I flicked down with the white, probably need to put another little coat on that, just so it doesn't have that red showing through quite so plainly. Just getting all my globs smoothed out. I'll do the same on this one. Sure my black is dry. I'm resting my arm on it. I don't want to smear it all over the place. I'm going to take a little bit of my white, just going to put little feather marks on the body. Here I'm just trying to cover that red that's showing through. Now I'm going to add a little bit of shadowing in. So I need a little bit of a darker red And I'm just gonna take a little bit of blue into some red to make it just a smidge darker. So here's my red. And then I'm just gonna take a little bit of blue, maybe not even that much. Stir that in. And it's gonna make my red a nice deep red. And on the edge here, he's got this little wing. Just gonna kind of dab a little bit in there. I'm just gonna dab a little on his underbelly. Just in little, short little strokes, so they kind of look like feathers. And then in between the two. Come up here a little bit too. Around the edge just a little. And I don't have very much on my brush. I'm gonna go back in with a little bit more white. I can see a distinct line of that red underneath. Another little layer. Just a little bit more white. And this area here is dry, so I can paint. I'm gonna paint the beak and the eyes just straight black, just fill in the whole area, making sure I get that Sharpie covered. Just using some black paint, small brush. And when those dry, we'll put some white in there. Meanwhile, let's go back to our branches and jazz them up a bit. Just gonna make a dark gray. We're gonna make it kind of look like bark. So just take a nice Scoop of white. Pretty good sized scoop of black. Stir that in. And even a little bit more black. We want it pretty dark. We want to be able to see it, but we don't want it to be like super obvious. So that's good. And it will dry a little bit darker. And using the same small brush, I'm going to thin this out a little. Just going to take a few drops of water, stir it in to just a small little area. This is just going to help the flow of the paint. Then I'm just going to kind of wiggle little lines in. Help it look like bark. Do that on the other one. And maybe just a little bit more white in. So just a small area. And just add a little bit lighter on there as well. Just a few of those. Transfer paint on my background a little. So now our eyes and nose are dry, and we're going to take just a little bit of white paint so they don't look so creepy. And just white paint on my small brush on the outside, kind of on the outside of this one. Swoop this way and then swoop that way. A little swoop down the nose and put some little dots in the eyes. Now we're just going to put a few little flowers in. And I'll make a nice shade of pink. So a little bit of red, quite a bit of white. I'm going to use my bigger brush. That way it's just the width of my brush is the petals. Make it a little easier. You're going to need more paint. Just because this brush is going to hold more paint. And let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see, my brush is scraggly. I'm just gonna roll with that. You can make nice pretty edged ones if you want. Just gonna need an extra layer. Cover the black. Up here. I'm not even worried that they're attached to the branch. Have some floating, that's perfectly fine. Let that dry, and I'll add some white using my smaller brush. give it a little pop with the blow dryer. Okay, I'm using my smaller brush and just a little bit of white paint. I got some I can squeeze out of here. Put little insides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'll just add some little dots to the center with some black. I'm gonna use the back end of my brush, just dip it in some black. I'm just gonna put little dots inside. Ooh, got a dangly. Then how about, I feel like it needs something. Maybe just some little white. I need a little bit more white. Mine's a mess. I just need a dab. Come on. It's way more than enough. I'm just gonna take my white on the bristle end. I'm just gonna put some little dots in. Just kind of fill in a little. And just try to touch up those little spots that my hand dragged across. And I think we're good. I don't see anything else that really needs to be added. I think it's pretty cute. I'm gonna sign my name. Look at these balls here. I'm just gonna squeeze my name in right there. And finished. I hope you enjoyed painting this with me. Please share with me. I like seeing your finished work. You can just post right to my wall on Facebook, the @ Paint Willy-Nilly. If you don't already like my page, that's an easy way to find it. You can also just send me a message and attach your photos in there. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.